why is Cal Raleigh the American League MVP with a quarter of a season left? We should note, and a lot to still accomplish for both teams and both players.
Yeah, I didn't even look at the odds. Apparently, Judge is a slight favorite. I'm just giving my opinion that right now, to me, Raleigh is slightly ahead. The reason I believe that he's the MVP is, I know everybody looks at the stats and they're comparing and Judge is ahead and all these little other categories, not little, these are the big categories. Uh, but it's partly about the narrative too. We're talking about a catcher, and you can't always, people are now picking on the defensive metrics aren't as great as they usually are. To have a catcher with those kind of stats is an amazing advantage. It is so valuable because the average catcher, I know it's a little bit up this year, thanks to him and Will Smith. The average catcher has an OPS plus well below 100, well below. Is it 90? It's somewhere in that 90 category, usually year after year, or even a little bit lower than that, right? So to have a catcher who's having not only an excellent year, a record-breaking year, to me is a compelling case to have him slightly in front. I'm not criticizing Aaron Judge. He is fantastic. No, it's not his fault that he was out for a couple weeks. He is having a typically incredible season. If someone tells me the MVP, he's the MVP, I'm okay with it. I think it's very, very close. And as I said, it's currently, to me, Raleigh, having that catcher with those kind of numbers, he's going to break the record for home runs by a catcher. At least when I wrote it, he was leading in RBIs in the major leagues. To me, that is just so, so valuable. I also think the Yankees, to me, I know they're both teams are in playoff position right now, having similar records, but the Yankees have been slightly disappointing. It's not his fault. Judge is the best. I think he's the best position player in baseball, but MVP right now, to me, I would vote for Raleigh if I had that vote.
John, this always is easy when you deal with, for me, people who are angry about this. It's usually fan bases, right? And I'll
Right.
always just say, well, let's just act like Cal Raleigh was doing this for the Yankees and Aaron Judge was doing this for the Mariners. If you were a Yankee fan, you'd be screaming, how can you not make a catcher with 46 homers the MVP, right? This is just progressives and conservatives, whatever side of the divide you're on, you see it through those lenses. If you're going to make it a war argument, and Judge leads in war, I always start with what war? Baseball reference. He's 6'9", Raleigh's 5'7". Fangraphs war, 7'4" to Raleigh's 7. So, we can't even agree what war is. I know what batting average is. I know what on-base percentage is. And again, if you're going to go by war and you're a Yankee fan, so you look at the war, I'd say, okay, let's go look at the war. We need to revoke Thurman Munson's MVP. He didn't even lead the Yankees in WAR. Mickey Rivers did in 76, and George Brett was way ahead of him. We have to revoke all three of Yogi's catching MVPs because, again, Mantle almost always led him on his team, and there's years where Ted Williams led the league in WAR. So, if you're going to make strictly a WAR argument, it's going to be hard probably for a catcher to win it. I know you said Raleigh, I think, has won the Platinum Glove in the past, I think last year, right? He's still fourth in, if whatever Fangraphs WAR defense is, he's fourth in it for among catchers. And his durability is spectacular. He catches, he's catches every game. Do you know he actually has 14 stolen bases? Judge has
Yep.
7. Look, Judge, there's a great argument for both. And John, I actually think you made a key point, which is the two teams, as we're speaking, are tied. There's 3 teams tied for the 3 wild cards. There are a couple of games ahead of Kansas City and the Guardians. What happens down the stretch here is going to matter for this race. I think it's very close. I think a compelling case, your word, I think was a good word, could be made for both sides. But to act like this is a runaway one way or the other is ridiculous. Raleigh is clearly in this race.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. Again, I don't think the catching war is fair. If a guy's catching, first of all, it's a liability. It's very difficult to hit when you're catching, right? That's part of the reason that catchers historically have had far worse numbers than certainly right fielders, but every other position. So I think it's debilitating catching, but it just historically catchers do not do that well. So if you have offensively, so if you have a catcher with big numbers, it is immensely valuable. Look how many games Mike Piazza's teams won because of his numbers. I think Will Smith. Now, obviously, Otani is way in front in MVP, but Will Smith has been exceedingly valuable to the Dodgers and certainly has a case in the top group. Well, Otani's probably going to win that one, or certainly is going to win that at this point. But I think people are undervaluing the idea of catcher, and your point is excellent. Yogi Berra's career WAR was like 65 or something like that, right? There are a ton of players who've never won an MVP who have comparable WAR. Buddy Bell, Willie Randolph. There are a lot of players. WAR does not properly judge catching defense and the value of it. The value is enormous. It's judging it versus other catchers and how is he replacing other catchers, whatever. It's not fair to Raleigh to say that his WAR is only 5.7 or 7. I don't think it really underestimates his value to that team. Take him off that team, see what the Mariners look like. Certainly they have a better offense now that they've acquired Naylor and Suarez, but I mean, their lineup didn't look that great before. Now it does. But I mean, I think it's partly the narrative. And that's why at this moment, and things can change, it's obviously very, very close. Judge has been, as usual, amazing player. To me, I'd vote Raleigh. Where would you go? Where would you go? I mean, you said
Yeah, I think
compelling.
I
How would you?
think I think I'm with you. I think right now with a quarter of a season left and both teams in position to either, both teams could make a run and win their divisions, both teams could be the top wild card, and both teams could fall out of it. And so I think what happens and what these two guys do the rest of the way, if I was forced to vote today, I'd vote for Raleigh. And I guess this will be one of those places where people talk about the New York bias, right? Here's two people based in New York who are talking about Cal Raleigh from as far away as you could get on our map and still play Major League Baseball. And we think with three-quarters of the season done, he's the American League MVP by a sliver.